It's a pleasure to have you once again this evening on the link. Thank you for always watching, and we hope we're keeping our promise to you to give you information you can use and opportunities. Tonight we're sharing information that you can use in your business. It has to do with tax. Some issue you might have heard of. The tax, the principle, the waiver by government, by URA, of penalties and interest in case you had arrears. There are a few things you need to remind yourself of before this waiver time passes. And in the studio, my guest to help us with this issue is Mr. Joshua Mbonigaba, Senior Partner, McIntosh Consult and Associates, and is a tax consultant. Joshua, welcome.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
Because of our few minutes, we'll go straight to the issue. Update us on the key issues I must know as a business concerning this tax, not tax waiver, but the waiver of penalties and interest declared by as part of law by government recently.
Thank you, Sam, again. Earlier this financial year, Uganda Revenue Authority tabled, passed a bill and through Parliament, and it was about the waiver of interest and penalties. Yeah. And this is about business communities and taxpayers in Uganda who suffered big challenges in the COVID pandemic, 2020. So they came up to the president and the Uganda Revenue Authority to tell them that, look, we are suffering with principal alone. We cannot handle the interest and the penalties that are accumulated.
You are going to kill us.
You are going to kill us. So the Uganda Revenue Authority, the Parliament, and the President had them, and so they tabled bills, and the President assented to the bill into law. Okay. So in this case, the waiver of interest and penalties is that if you had outstanding principal of 1 million shillings, for example, 1 million shillings.
When you owe the taxman.
You owe the taxman, actually. So if you had an outstanding liability of 2 million shillings, 1 million shillings as principal tax as at 30th of June 2023, and then 1 million shillings as interest and penalties. They are saying if you pay it 31st of December 2023, that is 6 months after, you will be waived off of your interest and penalties. So the 1 million paid between the 30th of June 2023 and the 31st of December, the 1 million of interest and penalties will also be waived off.
So you'd only pay only what you owe, no penalties, no interest?
Yes, correct.
If you pay by the end of this year, 31st December?
Yes.
All right.
But also to add on what I've said, it is on pro rata basis.
What do you mean pro rata?
So the pro rata basis is that if you cannot afford the 1 million shillings, the whole of the what you actually owe, the 1 million shillings, and you pay the 500 shillings, the 500,000 Uganda shillings, the 500,000 of interest and penalties will be waived off. Okay. So an equal proportion of what you're paid is what will be waived off.
Let me break it down. Hopefully, agree. Tell me if I'm wrong here. That means if I owe the taxman 1 million, but I can only pay 500. Yes. The interest and penalties are only waived off that 500.
The 500.
So what happens to the other half which I cannot pay past the deadline?
So as at 31st of December, when the 500 is still outstanding, it will still be demanded, and you'll be sent an email, or you'll be formally communicated to that you actually have 500,000 still outstanding.
So it's better generally that you pay all of it.
You pay all of it. So it is an incentive, on both sides. Why is that URA will collect more?
Definitely.
Because it has motivated, and it is an incentive to taxpayers. But also, the taxpayer will also have his burden reduced. Number two is that something, this is for domestic taxes.
Yes.
It doesn't apply to customs duties. Yes. So
Okay.
Business people and taxpayers should know that custom duties and custom taxes are not part of this waiver.
So casita, importers of things from abroad, China, were not included.
Not included. Yes.
Thanks for that clarification. And I agree with you that government collects more because they collected 1 trillion shillings because of the former waiver they did before. So yeah, it's a big deal. Second question, Joshua. It's not as easy as it sounds. Give us, as a tax consultant, key areas that are still confusing people in as far as paying their principal so that they can be waived of the other part is concerned.
Thank you, Sam. Maybe before that, I would want to expound more on about this law. So we had last financial year URA surpassing its target by 20% approximately. So I'm sure it was through the more engagements with taxpayers, and I'm sure it was through the areas of managing areas, tax areas, and managing tax areas is understanding the cash flows of these taxpayers.
Yes, absolutely.
So I would think that before the areas, they would have actually selected and said, okay, so these taxpayers, we actually have large taxpayers, we actually have medium taxpayers, we have actually small taxpayers. This is their turnover. So how can we help them to motivate them to pay more tax voluntarily? So meaning that the whole challenge is about they generalized everyone to pay by 31st of December. Blanket principle. So it will help, I would think that, and I anticipate that it would actually, few people are going to benefit from this waiver. And maybe not. Another issue is that URA did not consider the cash flows, indeed, of these businesses. Because if you consider that someone who has $1 billion shillings to pay as principal by 31st of December, will have to probably has a business asset, and they will need to liquidate it. Sell it, so that they benefit from this. Two is that another person will need to go to probably a financial institution to finance them, to pay off, because these taxes are indeed accumulating. Some of them actually are compounded. Yes, they are for all many years before. Many years ago. So you find that it is a huge burden, rather than so the understanding of taxpayers would have helped, and saying, for this category of people, we can give them a year. For this category of people, we can give them 7 months. For this category, we can give them 2 months. Maybe URA is listening. They are very keen. I think they listen. I hope in the next one, they might consider segmenting these different tax. They should pay for some consultants. Thank you, Sam. Another thing maybe to add on what I would have said is that the expiry of the period to benefit from this incentive. So the President of the Republic of Uganda, I would think that he has actually listened to these business communities and is a listening person. So I remember the other time when when traders actually went to meet him. So he's a listening person, and actually this interest, the wave of interest and penalties is more pertinent than trivial. So it is actually helping business communities. But the period of organizing themselves, organizing their books, of organizing their cash flows to make sure they benefit is too short. Yeah, you said assented in August, which means 4 months to December. 4 months to December of organizing your cash flows. So if you are importing, you'd rather not import. You'd rather first clear your taxes, the outstanding areas, because you don't know. You'd rather reduce your burden. Okay. Let's end up with the key issue here. The process, okay, if I have a big principal, I can still pay it in arrears. Sorry, in installment, not arrears. Installment. Take us through the nitty-gritties or the complexities of that. Paying in installments. Thank you, Sam. So Uganda Revenue Authority understands, like I said, has reached a point of understanding taxpayers that someone will not actually break their head or break their neck and pay the whole tax burden at once.
Yeah.
So you'd rather, if you have £1 billion shillings as your principal tax or as your outstanding liability, so they give you a platform to go and negotiate an installment payment plan.
Okay.
But it has to be realistic still. So realistic means that they give you a certain period of time of the installments. You will not ask for forever to pay these taxes.
There's a time limit.
There's a time limit. So URA puts a formal process on the Uganda Revenue Authority portal.
Yes.
There are manual forms which you download and fill in to say, out of the 1 billion shillings, I would want to pay it in 5 installments. And these 5 installments is that every month I'll pay 100 million. Every month I'll pay 200 million, depending on the installments that you would wish to pay and depending on your cash flows.
Okay.
So URA will look through your request, and after looking through your request, they will either approve it or reject it.
Okay.
So after approving it, they will capture it on the system and they will communicate to you and tell you that they have approved it. Rejection means that you need to do better. You need to, if you had asked for 10 installments, please ask for 5. So you sit down on the table and say, okay, fine, the 5 can work for me. And they will enter you into an installment payment plan.
Okay.
So installment payment plan is also supported by an MOU.
You sign an MOU between you and the taxman.
Yes. So an MOU between you, the taxpayer, and Uganda Revenue Authority, which is formally documented. And formally documented means that they will give you a list of requirements, a guarantor, post-dated checks, conditions. So you find that if you're a less organized business, you will not benefit from this. You will have to suffer the stress. And that's why you say that sometimes you probably go downtown. Their bailiffs are on people's heads. They have locked because they can't actually be organized to reach a point of having post-dated checks, having a guarantor, having an accountant, and all that.
So you think conditions could be tempered. One more issue before we end in about a minute, Joshua. There's something on the payment of principal, the previous question I asked. There was something you said earlier before you came to the studio. Tentative.
Thank you, Sam. So if you're a taxpayer, I'm sure you're a taxpayer.
I am.
You will go to Uganda Revenue Authority today or tomorrow and you ask for a reconciliation.
Tell me how much I owe, they confirm.
Yes, and I confirm and I pay.
Yes.
So I as Joshua or as Sam will go to URA and they will tell you. Actually, on the URA portal, there are tax ledgers. So if it is income tax, if it is pay as you earn, if it is VAT. So you'd want to know your tax position.
So let me say 2 million.
2 million shillings. So 2 million shillings is that you will do a reconciliation with this tax officer, but they will tell you actually write minutes of the meeting.
Yes.
But they will actually send you the tax position and tell you this is a tentative position.
It could change.
It could change. So tentative position is that the risk is that you're exposed. And being exposed means that you, at 31st of December, after selling your 2 goats in the village,
and paying the principal.
It could change, and then you have no way to get into or benefiting from the tax waiver.
Okay. Thank you, Joshua. The time has just run out on me when we are still doing these important things. But viewers, note what Joshua said last. Once you get an assessment so that they can waive off the penalties, it is tentative. They could come back and say, sorry, we made a mistake, and now you may need, it's past deadline. It's complicated how to deal with that issue, but at least we told you. Thank you for joining us tonight. That was The Link.